I'm Chris. I'm the co-host of True Believers, a comic book podcast, our usually weekly show about all things comics and loosely pop culture. As you know, we've been on hiatus since last year because of our own personal issues and because of unsurety in the direction we wanted to take True Believers in. And sadly, my best friend and co-host Andrew can't be with me full-time right now. So I'm joined by my other white best friend, the down bad doggy girl herself, my beautiful friend or furry, Alana.
Okay, I don't know if I liked that intro, but hello.
What
Not
part
a
was
furry.
it? Was it the white part? Because I could just say best friend. I love you, girly.
Okay, I am Wonder Bread, but
Okay. Was it the fact that I called you down bad? No, Alana's happily married.
yeah, it was that part.
Okay.
That was the part.
Or was it when I said friend or? Because like it's friend and pal.
Friend or foe, foe or furry. This week on True Believers.
Okay.
So what's my persona?
In honor of the release of Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves next week, I've got Alana with me to talk about the first two volumes of Die by Kieron Gillen and Stephanie Hans, Fantasy Heartbreaker, and Split the Party. Woo! Yes, I'm determinedly ignoring that. I'm pretending like that didn't get said. That absolutely did not get said on True Believers. Anyway, so are you ready for your short interview? Because now I'm trying to introduce segments into this show.
I'm ready.
How long would you say that we have been friends?
Oh, math. What year was like first grade?
Child, I don't know. I met you when I was in the fourth grade, though. That part's getting cut from the podcast, just so you know. You're not getting me canceled, ho. Would you say that I'm your best friend, Alana?
I would absolutely say yes. I had an answer to this earlier and I forgot.
I was about to say, because if you say anything other than yes, I'm really about to hit end on this call, and that will be the end of your time in True Believers. You will not be invited back.
I had something cute, and I can't remember what I was going to say.
Aww. I'm just going to assume it was, like, nice and heartwarming.
It was, but it was also witty, and now I got nothing.
Alana, what is your background in comics? Like, how did you get into them?
I had weeaboo cousins when I was a kid, and so they got me very into anime and manga as a small child, and then into middle school I read a bunch of manga and graphic novels, and then I went from that to webcomics, and now here I am, on your podcast. And also you got me desperately addicted to Lore Olympus, so
don't tell anybody about my secret shame.
You've been outed.
I'm not even ashamed. What's funny is I don't even think it's good.
It's enjoyable, okay? You can't deny.
Oh, no. This is Lore Olympus is like my thing with Fast and Furious. There's no veil over Lore Olympus. I know that it's bad. Like all the parts where I'm like, oh, that was terrible. I know.
That was me with the Discovery of Witches. I was like, is it good?
No, that show's
Can
horrible.
I put it down? No. Do I even see some of the flaws in it? Hard yes.
You know what is the ultimate series like that? Have you ever heard of The Mortal Instruments?
I think you vaguely told me about it, but
we watched that at somebody's birthday party when that City of Bones movie came out. That's the first book in The Mortal Instruments, and they had that show Shadowhunters. These books, and when I tell you, you think of every ism, you're like, that's racist, that's homophobic, that is disturbing. I don't like pseudo-incest. Oh, now there's real incest. Okay, I should explain the incest thing. Okay, so there are these two characters, Clary and Jace. They're the main characters, right? And they start falling in love, blah, blah, blah. At one point, they think they're brother and sister because the guy finds out that the dude who raised him as a kid is her biological father, but it turns out later that he wasn't his father. He just raised him because he took him from another woman and man who were part of his cult. And that sounds convoluted because it is. And I was like, oh my God, incest. But like, here's the thing. If I ever even remotely thought you might be my sibling, I'm not attracted to you anymore. Because even when they thought they were siblings, they were still like, I don't know, I already love you, I don't know. And I was like disturbed, but I was also in high school, right? And then like in the later books, there's a guy who shows up, Sebastian, because she really did have a brother, an older brother, and who she like never knew about. And her mom was like, oh my God, yes, I did have a baby. Oh my God, is Jace that baby? So it wasn't Jace, it was this dude named Sebastian. But Sebastian was attracted to her. He was trying to get him some Clary. I was like,
word to your mother, brother. I
At
don't think
least
I'm allowed
Jace
to
was her
finish it.
brother from another mother.
I don't think I'm allowed to finish my thought, but you
Keep
gather.
that to yourself. I hate that I've gone on a tangent about this, but when I tell you, literally these books are so horrible. They're badly written, but it's like the horrible way that they're written is so engaging because I was riveted. I read every page faithfully. I've read the entire Mortal Instruments series, and I even read, like, it's like after whatever the Infernal Devices, that actually, I will say the Infernal Devices was way better written than all 5 or 6 Mortal Instrument books. There's a lot of them also. Yeah.
That
There's
author
a
is gonna fist fight you for this montage.
I don't care. I've seen Cassandra Clare and I could beat her tail. I would beat her like a drum. But and then
That
like
soundbite is gonna go viral. I would beat her like a drum.
And not only that, the show Shadowhunters, I'm like, this show is so bad. And they kept trying to push the Clary and Jace agenda. I'm sorry, we will get back to talking about comic books. Yes, there was they made a movie. The movie didn't do well, so they made a show, and the show did really well. And then I think there was some kind of homophobia scandal, but I don't remember what it was. The show was so unserious. It's like, did you ever used to watch Gossip Girl in that era when I did?
No, I couldn't get into Gossip Girl.
What about Pretty Little Liars?
Also, no.
I can't think of anything that was bizarre that I was just like, yeah, and that's the plot. Duh, like Shadowhunters, because it's like I watch Shadowhunters every week faithfully. No, I was gonna say Smallville, but you didn't watch Smallville. You've been my best friend for like almost 20 years, and you've never seen the. Actually, you know how we were just talking about my undivided attention, how the world couldn't handle it? That's the other thing. It's like Vin Diesel and Smallville.
I remember the decade-long dedication to Smallville.
Do you remember when they moved
the
Smallville?
box set you had on display?
Had a box sets, and yes. I have a couple of the novelizations. But you remember when Smallville, when they moved it to Friday night, and I was like, I can't come out because Friday night at 7, I will be there live to watch Smallville. Now, if you want to make plans at 8, we're good. But before that, I will not be ready.
You had commitments.
I did. Somebody save me. Let your warm hands break right through and just save me. I like that whole thing stemmed from Lord Olympus. I'm like, yeah, in the incest, what? No. Yeah, okay. Shadowhunters, it got too weird at one point. And like they had their homophobia scandal, whatever it was, after I quit watching it. But I was like, you thought you were her brother. And then after that, I was like, that's disgusting. And then her mom had died at one point, and she brought him back to life and not her mom. And I was like, F him. If my mom, if I can only use my one wish and I can bring anybody back to life, I'm picking my mom. Are you stupid?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like at one point I thought he was my brother, so he's not coming back to life. No, do I look like Cersei Lannister? Absolutely not. And then on top of that, here's the part that makes the show so deeply unserious. There was this girl, Maya, who was a werewolf, and her and Jace, they did get booty one time. That's what my mom says instead of have sex. Like, whenever she's like, he's over there getting booty with blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, speaking of unserious, that just had to be said, but he was over there, they were in the alley getting booty. And Maya's black also. So I was like, Maya, girl, that's nasty. I was thinking about her because I was like, you gonna sleep with him? He's still attracted to somebody he once thought was his sister, and I kind of thought that. And Mimi watched Shadowhunters too, and we would talk about it. And me and Mimi both thought, we were like, yes, oh, he's gonna be with Maya. He wasn't with Maya. I was like, oh, so he can't be with the black girl, even though this is the only relationship on this show that makes sense.
Nope, they went with the incest instead.
The pseudo-incest, and then they introduced. Pardon. Yeah, no. And then the thing that was so crazy, they actually introduced the brother who like was attracted to her. I heard him introduce himself as like whatever his fake name was that I remember from the books, and he showed up in an elevator or something, and I immediately was like, I'm never watching this again. And then I never did, because nobody has willpower like me.
That was what did it for you. That was the end.
I was like, no, not the real incest, because they'll do it. This show is very unserious. So I was like, I'm not sitting through any more incest.
Yeah, but we made it through Game of Thrones.
You know, we did. And we did it, Joe. I didn't know it was going to happen for us.
I put it down and picked it back up a lot because all of the stuff in season 1, I was like, ooh. Oh, it was definitely all the essay. Yeah, that was the one. I can handle murder, but the sexual violence.
My thing is, it wasn't even just murder. They would be like, yeah, baby murder. What?
Yeah, that one I was like,
No, my thing was, I quit watching Game of Thrones like 4 times. I quit watching when Robb Stark got killed because that was my boy. I was like,
Really? The
no.
Red Wedding was pretty brutal.
I've never loved a TV character the same way I love Robb Stark. Sometimes I have a hard time even looking at Richard Madden because every time I look into his eyes, I want to cry. I be thinking King in the North. That's the song that plays in my heart. That's my man. That's my boo.
A stan.
I literally, and I used to watch Game of Thrones and then go to school after. I think that was like the only one that came on, and it was like spring break or something. And so like it was like that, and then the next episode that came on. But I didn't go to school the next day. But because it came on Sunday, and then it would come. I'd watch it on Monday morning while I got ready for school. So I would be watching all of that crazy stuff, and then I go right in the homeroom.
Just witnessing infanticide.
Oh, that one was I really did watch that one like right before school. Like the one where Cersei had all the little bastards rounded up, and they literally were getting out. Yep, right before school.
Oh God, I'm trying to remember what did I watch before school. A lot of SpongeBob. Definitely not HBO, Christian. Definitely not that.
Well, listen, I was like 15. Who's gonna tell me no?
That's fair.
Make it sound like it was HBO. Like
we just didn't have HBO.
One thing about my mom, she's gonna have the home box office. Oh wait, we're way off topic. Alana, what's your background in like tabletop role-playing games? Like, how'd you get into them? Do you play other systems besides Dungeons and Dragons, or?
So I started my freshman year of high school, and we played really casually with some friends, all together, usually on Friday nights. But it wasn't really organized.
Yeah, I would have joined you, but Smallville.
Priorities. I get it. Prior commitments. I didn't formally start playing until about last year when I moved to Florida and I was trying to meet local friends, and so I started hitting up. I started going to this local comic book store, and I just kind of wanted to look around and see maybe if there were any groups so I could meet people. And the owner is a really kind person, and he put me onto this Discord group where they kind of taught me everything, and I just learned as I went. And we played the Curse of Strahd campaign, where I was a bard named Mirith, and I was clueless and reckless and had a blast.
What would you say your bardic highlight was?
There were a few. So I decided that my goal in the game was, I didn't care about what the group's mission was because I was a sneaky little spy rogue. I was going to do what I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do was Daddy Strahd. So I tried to.
Can I get that one more time? I'm sorry, please.
What? Daddy Strahd. I tried to seduce a werewolf and contracted lycanthropy. I was going to say lycanthropy, and I know it's wrong, but it feels better on my tongue. Anyway, contracted that, which tried to tell me was a bad thing. This is furthering your furry narrative, and I hate it.
Yeah, your furry narrative.
They tried to convince me that was a bad thing, but
Shakira already told us. There's a she-wolf.
I sang it and they didn't get the reference, and I was so upset.
The moon's my teacher and I'm her student.
So I was just like, I don't see what the problem is. I have superpowers now. Like, I'm gonna be fine. It's you guys that it sucks for. I definitely did end up ripping one party member completely in half, but it worked out fine because he said he wanted to die anyway, so he could make new characters. So I mean, I did him a favor. Then after that, I tried to seduce. I don't remember if it was like a vampire thrall or maybe it was Strahd.
Why are bards always so horny? You don't have to seduce people. You can inspire them. In fact, you could do that.
What fun is that?
It's plus, what I do.
Every time I would roll super low for charisma, even though it was my highest stat. So I would brutally fail at seducing these people. I never once successfully seduced anyone. But yeah, I ended up also contracting vampirism.
Like in Underworld?
That, baby, do you know how many times
you're Michael Corvinus?
And they also didn't get that reference, or maybe they did. I don't know. They didn't give it nearly as much reaction as I.
No, they got your reference. They just didn't think you were funny.
Well, I thought it was great. Okay,
I think it's great.
I went from having really low stats to being a goddamn superhuman vampire wolf creature. I gave them a run for their money when I changed, so sorry boys, but They had to tie me up with rope at one point because the DM decided that I was going into a vampiric state. And
Was it regular rope, or was the rope like made of silver, or?
I think it was just regular old rope. They
Girl,
also,
you should have
one of
rolled
the
an
party
attack roll to see if you could bite that rope.
one of the party members had already knocked my ass out, which took a lot of effort on their part. Okay,
Hit him
he
with
was
the
a giant
bagpipes.
turtle.
I'm sorry.
then
I'm
the
sorry. Elaborate on that last part. You can't just say he was a giant turtle and then
He
like
was a
move
giant
on.
turtle named Goggles.
Now, was this the same guy that you ripped in half?
No, that was a warlock.
That was a different guy. It was a warlock. I wouldn't rip Goggles.
I loved him. But yeah, by the end, I was determined to make Strahd fall in love with me so then I could steal his castle and become the queen of the castle, which I didn't reveal that until the very end. But at the very end, the last battle, instead of fighting him, I snuck up behind him and I bit him. It made me from a Dhampir into a full vampire. Yeah, and so then I wasn't fighting Strahd, I was fighting with Strahd against my party. And I survived to the end, okay? And then Strahd died, and I was like, yes, I'm going to inherit this property. I girl bossed my way. But then I girl bossed too close to the sun, and when he died, the castle crumbled. So I was like, well, shit.
Hey guys, remember me, your best friend? We're best friends again. So no other system, just D&D for right now?
Just D&D. Yep.
Until I get you to dungeon master me for Kids on Bikes, but
you can keep holding your breath.
I'm Alana, I could, if I held my breath for that long, you would do anything I said, because I think if anything happened to me, you would crumble. So don't act all tough.
That sounded so. I really, really don't want to DM.
That sounded aggressive, but
Michael do it.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He'd enjoy
Michael, pick up the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Hand in the gauntlet.
I know Michael doesn't listen to True Believers because he has the look of a fake bitch about him, but you know. Anyway, Alana, what's your position on splitting the party, since it's a topic of conversation?
If it works for what's going on at the moment, then it could be more complicated, but we've done it before.
It's not my thing. I just don't go in for it. Okay, so if we were both good.
I was just saying, like, I guess it depends, like, how far split too. Like, we're not in like two totally separate locations. It'll be like one person is like at this part of the town, and another person's like at this part of the town, or these people decided to go down the gigantic hole in the ground, and these people decided to stay at the top, but like not on like separate quests.
Yeah, I always tell people, if you want me to dungeon master, I'm not doing that. You guys can go to different buildings. You could be across town, but I'm not entertaining that. Like, as a player, I don't care, but as a DM, I'm not doing that. So
it sounds complicated.
You do it. You can do whatever you want to. But as for me in my house, wait, that was about to be a Jesus thing, and I was
gonna say, I was waiting for it.
Jesus is too tempting of a topic for Alana, so
you're gonna make a lot of people very angry if we go into this.
Yeah, you'd never have a theological debate with her. It's gonna be an interesting conversation.
He is my guy. I don't know.
And let's just keep it at that. So if we were both playing a game of die between the Dictator, the Fool, the Motion Knight, the Neo, the Godbinder, and Grandmaster, what do you think my persona would be?
Grandmaster, without a doubt.
Really? I don't see myself as that type. I don't need to shape the form of the world. I just need to exist in it. And unlike Saul, I would never want to stay.
No. But you are literally a universe maker.
I think you believe in me too much. It's a little bit weird.
You have literally created, let's see, there's Starbound, there's Stratoria, there was the original, I forget what the original piece that gave birth to Starbound was.
The soliloquy thing, yeah, I forgot about that. I really got to think of another name besides Starbound. Oh, so yeah, me and Alana are working on a webcomic. I mean, I'm writing it, and Alana says that she wants it to get written, so I'm like, well, if you want it made, you're gonna have to draw it, so. And also, apparently, Starbound is the name of a really popular video game series, so I gotta think of a new name.
Oh, whoops. We'll like add some flair to it. Starbound XLT. It'll be like Starbound SD1.
Starbound D.
Yeah, there you go. Nailed it. Starbound XD.
Starbound GX.
Yeah, that'll work.
What was that Yu-Gi-Oh? That like fifth one? It was like Zexal or whatever.
Yu-Gi-Oh went hard though. That was my shit as a kid.
Yo, what was your favorite one? I liked it when they went to Battle City. I found the whole thing so desperately unserious because I'm like, this is card games. Y'all are playing a card game in a Battle City. Where do you get the permits to make a Battle City? And then it's like, if you lose Yu-Gi-Oh, you go to hell. No, you know what? I know this guy. He's a freak. Like, I hate to say mean things about people in public, but that guy's a freak. He told me that when he was young, Pot of Greed, that card that where you like discard other cards or something, and it's like a literally like a pot, like a urn or like a ceramic pot, and it with a mouth on it, and it's like, yeah. That guy said that he wanted to use the Pot of Greed as a
leave it. No, I'm good. You can put that back where it came from. No, thank you. Return to
sender. So if we were playing a game of Die, though, like, what do you think your persona would be?
I could see dictator. I don't think that I would choose it, but I think I would fall into it.
Really? Huh. Mm-hmm. I guess we're different people and we see ourselves differently, because I was thinking you'd be the Godbinder.
Maybe. Yeah, I could see that too. But what's her name? Madame Woe?
Mistress Woe.
Mistress
Woe.
That
was scary. And she messy. I can't wait for you to read volumes 3 and 4, because it gets messy. You think it's messy now? It could get worse. It could always be worse. The die is cast. It could get worse.
Chuck got what he deserved. Okay.
Chuck is a fool. Oh, literally.
Okay,
so and so like I said last week, I'm sure that anyone listening to a comic book podcast knows about Dungeons and Dragons, the fantasy game originally published by Tactical Studies Rules and now Wizards of the Coast. Die is described by writer Kieron Gillen as goth Jumanji, a pitch black fantasy where a group of 40-something adults have to deal with the returning unearthly horror that they only just survived as teenage role players.
All right,
Alana, so how would you describe the storyline of Die so far in this first half?
I did not expect it to have so many World War I and World War II undertones, but then like as we went on and seeing that it was so influenced from like Lord of the Rings, and then I was like, okay, yeah, that tracks. Okay, that makes sense.
One thing that I did not get until like I was reviewing the episode that I did last week. I don't know if you listened to it yet. Alana is one of my only friends who I know listens to all my episodes. The rest of you are fake, just so you know. I want you guys to know that that's what I think. But it was about the Dungeons and Dragons TV show that came on in the early 80s. I think 1983 was when the first episode premiered, and I did not realize that the makeup of Die, their full party, and the setup of Die, it's meant to mimic the Dungeons and Dragons show. If you think about it, there's 6 kids, each a different character class.
Yeah.
They're doing something innocuous. They get on a roller coaster, and in Die, they're playing a game and they end up trapped in the world, trying to figure out how to get home. And that's the entire plot.
It gave me some serious like nostalgia as well. I know you haven't read that, and you're not really a big Stephen King fan.
Oh, that's the thing with the clown. That's the thing with the clown.
Yeah, but it wasn't like the clown thing that wasn't what reminded me, because it's also like a thing where they go through this really traumatic experience with this supernatural entity that really only they understand. This, what is it, 6 of them, 5 of them? I don't remember. And then they think that it's over with, but they make a pact together that, hey, if this ever comes back, we have to all reunite and go through this again to get rid of it for good. And then like 30 years later, it happens. And the lineup of events is very similar to how things are set up in Die.
You know what? Actually, Monique gave me the perfect response to that situation. Girl, fuck them kids and fuck you too. Because did you see my face drop when you said, well, me back up? Nah, we escaped.
We're out. I did that thing.
I did that. Especially because in Die, like, they're just playing a game. It's Ash's birthday, but Ash shares their birthday with Saul, who's the game master, and Saul's like, yeah, I've got a new game for you. And then just like he passes out a different die to every player, and they're like, oh, so we all only get one dice. And he's like, actually, it's called a die. And then they're transported into the world. I was like, girl, what the hell? So now it's like more modern times, because this was the 80s, and they're like, oh yeah, so we never spoke about it again. And then they come back, and like a year later, one of them doesn't have an arm and they're missing Saul, and now it's like Ash turned like 40 or something, and they all meet up because Ash got like a bloody die. And somehow they ended up having the same stupid argument about the name of the dice. And then guess what? They get transported back.
Didn't they kind of agree that they were going back in anyways, though? Because they needed to get... Oh, I misunderstood that. Whoopsie. I thought it was like this agreed upon thing because they all showed up together.
Because they all met up because Ash received... And they knew it was Saul's Grandmaster die. So they were like, Ash was like, let me call everybody. So they all meet up at Chuck's house. Chuck is rich because he writes fantasy novels. Also, their lives all kind of suck. Like, well, not suck, but Ash is like living the most. You know, when Squidward went to the rich neighborhood in SpongeBob and then every day was monotonous? That's what Ash's life looked like. Also, I think they're in England, so all the buildings are like sad and gray and weird. And Matt is like a dad, and he's like Matt is the only one who's a good person. So he's like, he's living his best life. I think his dad is sick again. I think the first time they left, I think Matt's mom died, and I was like, because imagine you leave for a year, you disappear for a year, you have like the worst year ever, you come back and you're like, oh, you know your mom, she's dead. What?
Well, no, what happened with his mom is that she went in to have surgery and then she died from surgery complications. And so remember, because when they're in the trenches, I think, or no. It was whenever they're drinking with the dwarves and they're like, what's the bravest thing that you've ever done? And he tells the story about how his mom died from surgery complications. And then when his daughter was 5, she needed to be put under anesthesia for surgery because she had like appendicitis or some shit. And he was like internally freaking out because they tell you it's like 1 in 100,000, but really. And so like to keep his daughter calm, he was like, you're going to be fine. It's going to be great, because he was like, if she dies, I don't want her to die scared. And anyway, he said that that's like the bravest thing he's ever done. And
the dwarves were eating it up. They were like, oh my gosh, Grief Knight, you're amazing. And he was like, I know, but Matt is a very depressed man. He's very blessed, but also very depressed. I'm like, you need to be on a medication, but you are a good man. And then Ash is the miserable, or not miserable, but just average. Like, I hate when people are aggressively average, because your life might as well just be miserable. Then Chuck writes fantasy novels. He's been divorced like 3 or 4 times.
His
he's
kids
rich.
don't talk to him.
Yeah, of course they don't. He's a fool. You already
and then he won't take her back. And of course he won't. And she's shocked that the girls are mad at her.
Girl, you done broke up our family. I don't know what she smoked before she put them 2 thoughts together, because when I was reading it on the page, I was like, no. And then there's Isabel, whose life, she's like a teacher or something, but not even an interesting one.
Yeah, I forget what her deal is back home other than being a teacher.
She's like an English teacher. The most interesting thing I think was that she was like French and Asian, and I was like, that's actually kind of interesting. Madame, what is your cigarette?
I was gonna say, where's the cigarette?
And then the only person who's not there is Saul, who's the grandmaster, like the one who rounds out the party. Saul is the one who was adjudicating the game for them before they got sucked into it as kids. And then they're like, oh, I think Saul's mom came and visited Ash earlier on his birthday and was like, please just tell me what happened to him. And he was like, girl, if you don't get off my porch, sorry, I can't stay. I ain't got nothing to fight you.
Yeah, and okay, I'm kind of confused. Why didn't she ever try to go back for him?
She couldn't.
She could have tried.
No, literally, they explained it in part 2, because I was like, why do you never talk about it? Because it seemed weird that they were like, we can't talk about it. I was like, why? They explained it, I promise.
Okay, I guess I'll get there, because I was like, I mean, he has a little right to be angry. You just left him there, you know?
They didn't leave him there on purpose.
No, but they knew he was stuck there, and
how was they gonna get back? They didn't have the dice. The die was what took them there.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
Oh, so they all get into an argument, right? They end up trapped right back in the world, and I think they end up outside of like was it outside of Glasstown? I don't know. It really doesn't matter.
They end up going to Glasstown to attract Saul.
Yes, and Saul meets him there, but they meet, like on their way there, they meet the master of the front, and I was looking at this man and I'm like, he looks so familiar. I know this man, and like the things he was saying, they resonated with me, but like that, you know how I told you if I read anything I could probably remember it like 10 years from now?
Yeah, I wish I had that.
Yeah, so I'm listening to what he's talking about, because they're talking about war, and I'm like, what is this? Guess who that man was?
Who?
It was Tolkien. Tolkien is the master of the front.
I was getting vibes like that because, there were so many references, that makes a lot of sense.
And there's so many layers to this because, the original Dungeons and Dragons game, Gary Gygax was a big fan of those war games, which are, of course, based on like real wars and stuff. And that is the basis of Dungeons and Dragons. So when I realized even Angela being there is actually a Dungeons and Dragons reference, because in the Dungeons and Dragons TV show, the girl with the cape, I don't know, she could become invisible or some stupid shit, but her little brother Bobby the Barbarian is there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, just like Ash and Angela, it all makes sense. And then as we see them in their die counterparts, you're like, oh, okay, so they all really hate each other and have since they were kids, except for Matt. Like, I feel like Matt probably doesn't like Chuck, but Matt,
they didn't even They didn't even like each other as kids. They didn't even like each other that night. Most of them weren't friends.
Like, it's like Matt was probably the one who was friends with most of everybody, but I feel like Matt didn't like Chuck and was always too polite to say so.
Chuck immediately pissed off Ash the first night.
The first night when they was kids.
When they was kids, exactly. Isabel did not like Ash either. And then later she really doesn't like her.
So when we get there, I was like, oh, they all kind of look the same except for Ash. Because I'm like, oh, Ash is a woman. I was like, not a girl boss. Okay. And then when they introduced their personas, which is, they're actually called that. They're all the paragons, right? So everybody knows, like in Dungeons and Dragons, that they're like, oh, so you're from another world, the paragons. Okay, I was like, period. So their personas, Ash is the D4, the dictator, which is described as the other side of the bard. Like, the ability, Ash has the ability to like manipulate people and just make them do her bidding, which is kind of interesting. It seems like that would be a hard class to get into. Apparently, I looked up what these classes were meant to mirror because I was interested in it. Mm-hmm. And apparently Chuck, he's the D6, the fool. The other side of this is the swashbuckler. And I think
I haven't even read about that class. Like, I'm assuming it's like a pirate type deal. Like,
sort of be. But I think they mean like the devil may care-ness of Chuck's fool attitude. The thing is, as long as Chuck acts a fool, I looked up exactly why Chuck is called the fool. As long as he maintains a carefree attitude and doesn't seriously consider consequences, he is granted an unusual degree of luck in all his actions. So the one moment in this story where he has remorse, everything goes wrong.
That's so funny. Even whenever he had the bad luck stricken upon him from
it still
Mistress
worked out.
Woe, he was still fine.
It still worked out. And then the D8 Matt, he is the class is called the Emotion Knight. First of all, what a man, what a man, what a man. I saw Matt one time and I knew exactly what class that the Emotion Knight mirrors. He's the paladin. Well, specifically, Matt is a grief knight, and apparently you can have a knight for almost every, well, not every emotion. They named a few. There are rage knights who you meet. I think in part 2, you meet the rage knights.
On it in part 1.
Yeah, and then they said in the author's notes that there were joy knights, but the way that he uses his power is so interesting. It's because, like, he leans on Ash a lot to make use of his powers, and this is why I said, like, Matt is very depressed, but I think being a grief knight is actually the best class because it doesn't take anything away from you. It's like, I don't remember in what Star Trek. It's in whatever Star Trek movie that Tupac samples for that song Pain or whatever that I think is in Above the Rim, where he's like, your pain is great, share it with me, or something like that. It's where Spock's brother comes, and Spock's brother is some kind of religious zealot, and he's also like a powerful telepath or whatever. But like, so Cyborg, his whole thing was that he was showing people God by like taking their pain away, but Kirk was like, excuse me, sir, I need my pain. I need my pain. Pain is what makes me human. It's what makes me who I am. That makes so much sense. Like, the things that we've been through, the scars on our hearts. Thank you, Christina Perry. That is what makes us human. And the grief knight, I think, is the perfect example of that, because if you were trying to base your powers on your joy, I don't think you could get far. Rage, I think you can get far with rage, but you can't build anything worth having on it. But grief is sorrow is what you use to move forward. And I don't know if I read this in something that Matt said or in the author's notes, and I'm going to lean to the author's notes because there are a lot of them. There's like a full-on newsletter plus a bunch of author's notes at the end of every issue. It was said that grief is the price of joy.
Yes, I thought that was powerful.
Was so powerful, and I had never thought of. I was like, oh my gosh. And Matt, my paladin, my grief knight, I love him. And Matt is also very sexy. Like, for a drawing, I was like, Matt, what you trying to do? Not you being Matt Tris Elba.
The thirst. I found him really relatable too, because I remember going through my own grief and feeling like it was one of the most powerful things that I had ever experienced. And it's interesting to me that before even playing this game, like, Matt was kind of known as like the depressive friend. And so to see that be turned into like this source of strength where they had to turn to him for that. And it was so painful to watch, though, Ash have to tell him the most god-awful, horrible, provoking things so he could save them time and time again. And then after the fact have to like put the Band-Aid on it.
Be like, I didn't mean that, buddy. You'll be good. Because it'd be like, while you're gone, your dad, he's been sick. He might die. Your daughter might die. She had to have that surgery. And then it'll be like, what? And then it's like, yeah, sorry about that, buddy.
At the beginning, And then as we kept reading, I was like, oh, I guess I had it wrong. Ash is a girl.
I mean, it's only volume 1 and 2. Let's get to the end. I was really sitting up thinking, like, are there other ways to get pregnant besides having sex? And then I was like, I read like 2 more pages, and then I went back to issue number 1 because I was like, no, let me restart. Let's rethink that.
I think it just threw me off because everyone else's character is pretty much them, just in the game. So I was like, wait, did I totally misinterpret that first like episode?
What I love about that is that so many people who play like D&D TTRPGs, they're just like, it's gonna be me. Like
you do that.
Who's me? No, I don't do that.
Christian. I'm not gonna say your last name, but Christian. I have seen your hero forges. They are.
Oh no, they all look like me. They all look like me. Don't get me wrong, but that's because I'm a supreme baddie. Roleplay wise, they don't be like me.
Oh yeah, okay.
And then the character I'm working on now is a man, so he looks like Reese King.
Yeah, but he looks like a boy version of you, though.
No, he looks like a more light skinned version of my brother.
Who looks like
a young version of my dad.
Who looks like? No, what? All right.
My younger brother?
You all look like your dad, girl.
I don't recall. First of all, that son, another person whose name, I think it's Augustus. Because I was like, there's a name here. I don't know whose name this is. I think Augustus is the son. He's like, hello, mother. I was like, what the hell? What you mean, mother? Like, mother and child?
Which also begs into question, so is the game real or not?
Yeah, because it's like, if it's real, first of all, wasn't y'all like 14? So you was popping cooch and you had a whole son and just left your son? Look, they all seem very stupid. So I don't think people like I was considering the whole reproductive cycle because they said they were surprised when Ash got pregnant. And I was like,
cut all of this.
no, this is staying in. So they said they were surprised that Ash got pregnant. So I didn't think normal reproductive logic was happening. Like, I didn't think people were menstruating. Because I was like, if you're like,
and the vampire daddy is Zet daddy.
I'm sorry, what?
The vampire daddy. I forget his name, but the zaddy is the actual
Lord
daddy.
Zamorna. And
yes,
I really thought that Zamorna was Zamoma. So I had read it like that the whole first time I read it like that. And then, because the lettering is really weird in between that R and the N. So I was like, oh, Zamoma. I was like, Zamoma. And then I was reading a book about the Brontes and like, because I wanted to know how much of this stuff was real. And it's all pretty real, actually. So it comes out towards the end that Charlotte Bronte is the warden and master of Angria, Lord Zamorna's kingdom, who claims to be the real I really did just like I copied down the description, but yeah, claims to be the real Charlotte Bronte who was transported in to die upon her death. Charlotte and her siblings created the worlds of Gondal, Angria, Glasstown, and characters such as Zamorna in their childhood, but soon realized that they had gotten more than they bargained for when their worlds began to bleed into reality. And I was like, girl, what the hell? But the thing is, I actually already knew a little bit about the Brontes, and which is why all the stuff sounded kind of familiar to me, because Miss Cheka, shout out to Lady Splaney, my favorite podcast that will never come back ever for some reason. Release more episodes, Miss Cheka. Release more episodes. She was our English teacher.
If you're listening to this, Miss Cheka, I'm sorry for the bad words.
She cussed too. She grown. She know we grown.
I still feel like she's Do you know that one year Miss Cheka left for our midterms? She was out of town, and so we had a sub. And she was so dead set that we were not to cheat when she was gone and that we were going to take this midterm honestly, that she made a 57-minute long video that she put on the Promethean board of her staring into the screen. And this was not like a 10-minute video on loop. It was nonstop, staring deeply into the screen like this, blinking, turning her head, giving us the
Was it edited at least?
No!
Miss Cheka, that's psychopathic.
It was effective.
I bet nobody even tried to cheat. But she had she had several episodes referencing or maybe this was when she was on YouTube. I don't know. But I don't know if it was Jane Eyre or Wuthering Heights. I don't know. But it's one of those Bronte works. I think the Brontes are horrible writers. But the fact that they're so influential, so accomplished, so like they have everything going on. And they were like, who's the genius? Our idiot brother who like pisses away all our money, that our very little money that we don't have. But Branwell Bronte, he's the true genius of us. And I'm like, this is what misogyny does to brains. Because however much I hate all of your writing, all of you, all three of you, you are the geniuses. Branwell's contributed nothing to literacy, nothing to society, except for being your brother.
Yeah. Yep.
But as soon, like when the warden was telling the story of Di or whatever, as she knew it, I was like, this sounds familiar. And then I saw three women, and I was like, and then I saw that brother. I was like, I know who you are. I know you. I know you by sight. I would know you by smell. I would know you anywhere in this world. I know who you are, Charlotte Bronte. And I even knew which one she was. I was like, it's you.
That whole premise kind of reminded me of the whole, like, how Lewis Carroll came about with writing Alice in Wonderland with, like, kids and stuff. And so I'm curious if something like that is going to come into play in part 2, just because there's been so many other literary references and the universe building is similar. So we shall see. But yeah, that came out of left field for me.
But I think knowing, because I remembered this second time around that Charlotte Bronte was the warden, like knowing that, I was like, then who's the master of the front? That's what prompted me to look that up, to be like, I need to know that. There's no part of me that can't know this. So they agree to kind of go by the old rules that they had. This is kind of like late into our super in-depth description of the storyline. They agree to go by the old rules. So they're like, we all want to go home, but we have to treat this world like it's real. And I'm like, girl, Ash has a kid. Isabel is in debt to all these gods. They end up holed up in Glasstown. They have to transport all the Glasstown people. Somehow they end up in Angria. That's when all the stuff really starts popping off, because that's where Augustus and Zamorna are. Dictators aren't even allowed to, like, all the dictators are on some BDSM stuff, because they all have these collars and they can't even like speak without talking to a master. And I was like, sounds a little bit too horny for me, but whatever. And then they're all on side quests. That's where they split the party. And Isabel is in deep to like every god. Like Ash is making moves to topple the aristocracy, the magistocracy.
Another thing is that Isabella was one of the ones that fought to stay, and I kind of thought she was a dick for that.
She was like, no, people need us. Well, these people aren't real. F these people and their kids. So
yeah, like, okay, you may not give a shit about your life back at home, but there are people here who have families and children that they would like to get back to, and you're like, nope, I want to stay and play. Thank you.
Matt wants to see his kids, and them kids want to see Matt too. Matt is the only one who really got something going on.
Like, if your life sucks so bad, then you go and make it more interesting. But there are some of us that actually have a good setup that we would like to get back to. Anyway, I digress.
Man, Alana, do you think if we were in Die, First of all, if we were in Die, this is back to the interview. I was gonna ask this next week, but I'm gonna ask you this now and then see if your answer changes. Who would you pick to be with you? What's your ideal 6-person party?
Like, out of the characters in the game or my life?
Out of the people you know. Out of the people we know.
Okay, obviously you.
Why I gotta be in it?
If I'm gonna play,
you said if I want to get home, I'm taking you.
Yeah. Let's see, who else? Obviously Michael.
Wait, so your kid's just gonna be an orphan?
Yeah, she'll go to her nanny's house. It's fine. Nanny is her grandma, by the way. We don't actually have a nanny.
Oh, Alana's crazy rich. She is. Okay. She needs to be toppled with the rest of the bourgeoisie.
Yeah, I say with my duct taped on mirror on my car.
I say with my twice broken head.
It's fine. You know what? They work. Also, leave my TV tray desk alone.
That's ghetto. I'm sorry. You should have just bought a meth desk like me.
I did buy a desk. It's just small. So that's my meth desk.
Like, my meth desk is a lot smaller than that. And it's the size of 2 TV trays.
Did you say your meth desk?
Oh, yeah. The lady I bought it from was definitely on meth.
Oh, okay. Well, one of my desks was free on the side of the road. So that's something.
Dang, that's even, well, I don't know. My meth desk is painted gold and it's got a giant picture of me that's the one that I had in my room. The one you told me was really cool because I put that giant poster of myself under the glass. Crazy, right?
Respect. The rest of my party. That's 2 people. Winston. No, just kidding. He's soft. I love him
You
to death,
can't
but he
bring the
would not.
dog.
I could, but but he's too soft. Okay, the dude has like skin allergies and a bad eye, and
I'm sorry,
it would
but
just not be smart.
I would if you brought me, I would take Winston out myself.
Hey,
We all need to want to go home. Dogs are very stupid, and
he would. No, Winston likes his bed. He would want to go home.
You would put us in danger for the dog, and
No,
you
you're
would
not
forgive
wrong.
me. So
No.
you would be mad, but I think you would forgive me, or at the very least, you ain't gonna try and kill me. So
I wouldn't try to kill you, but I would never forgive you.
We could move past it. I think we could move
Not
past
if you killed my dog. Let's see, who else would I bring? Dude, I need more friends.
Wait, what's Michael's class?
Question.
I could see Michael as a Neo, just for the the sci-fi aspects of it. But I think Michael would make a really, really good dictator because he is so tricky, like with words. He'd be like,
That's true.
blah, 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 blah.
He's very charismatic. However, when I've seen Michael play D&D, he plays a barbarian orc named what was it? Stump, whose intelligence was 6. So that's what I've seen.
You don't need intelligence if you got wisdom.
He didn't have that either. He just
I done played a dumb
really
wizard
hard.
before.
Oh, I'm a very dumb ranger in my other campaign. However, I've got super high wisdom, so I'm like really dumb, but inherently very wise.
Yeah, it's like God. Look, what if Michael played the fool?
That would honestly be very fitting. You know, his birthday is 7/7/97, so like the dude does have like a horseshoe shoved up his ass.
I think either I would be an emotion knight. Like I could take being a grief knight. I don't think it would bother me. But being a martial class is very ghetto. So I honestly I don't know, because being a cleric, I don't want to be beholden. Even the warlock thing, I got to make a deal with you to get some magic. Nah, I need to be magic on my own.
I don't want to depend on you for my magic.
I need to praise you to get some magic. Absolutely not.
I also didn't expect the like tech like angle that they went with the Neo, and I thought that was kind of cool considering everything else is pretty high fantasy.
I just thought it was funny. It was because Angela was like, "Can I be a cyberpunk?" And thinking that like at the time cyberpunk was hot,
which I also did not know that was a hot topic in the 80s. So that was cool.
You didn't know about the cyberpunk craze? What do you think the Matrix was?
In the 90s?
I think it was the 90s. Was it not the 90s?
Yeah, I thought the game took place in the 80s.
I thought Die was in. See, I really was not sure, time wise, but I know cyberpunk has been. Oh, I didn't mean to say the Matrix. I meant to say Blade Runner.
Okay, yes. I was like, wrong decade.
But I've been thinking that was the 90s for years. Like I've never seen Blade Runner. When they made a Blade Runner 2, that was when I found out most of the stuff I know about Blade Runner. And I could tell you all 3 of the things I know about Blade Runner, and they're all weird.
I have not seen any of it. So.
Blade Runner.
Zero concept.
It takes place in a futuristic setting. Harrison Ford is the main character, and I think there might be somebody with 3 titties, but I also think that might be like the 5th element or something.
This is triple nipple.
Yeah, I seen 3 titties, so I think that might have been. I don't know, but whatever the thing. Actually, no, I don't think that's Blade Runner with the 3 titties, because whatever the thing is with the 3 titties, I don't remember how I ended up having a conversation with your dad about it, but I very, very viscerally remember having a conversation with your dad about the 3 titties, because
that
whatever
shocks me none.
Whatever the thing was, he went and saw it in theaters, and he was like, "Yeah, she had them 3 titties," and we were like, "Whew." And I was like, "But one of them wasn't real." He said it was 3 titties. I'm a man.
Jeff knew what he was about. Okay, it was the 3 B's. It was beer, barbecue, and butts. Titties, a close,
boobs are just the butts of the chest.
Yes, the front crack. The northern front crack.
So, like, to sum everything up, because we have gone on for a really long time, what were your final thoughts on like what you read?
I really want to see Solomon get his revenge. I feel like he really got.
What does he need to get revenge on?
They left him. He didn't start evil.
He got pulled
and then they killed him. His best friend killed him.
He got pulled away. He should have held on stronger.
Nah, I think that Ash didn't even try to save him when she came back, though. She just was like, okay, we'll just kill you.
He decided he killed not the Dungeon Master. He killed the Grandmaster and was like, I'm the new Grandmaster, and was causing havoc. She was like, Ash was like, you too far gone. Ice.
She could have dictated him or something.
Ice.
I think she could have tried harder to save him.
But you know what, Alana? That can never be us, because I would never stop trying to save you. First of all, I never would have left without you. We would have held on tighter.
That's also true.
Now, I don't know how hard you would be holding on to me at the end if we as grown people and I had iced your dog. Like, it might be a whole different story.
See, I'd let you go back, but I'm gonna stay. Figure out a way to revive my
With
baby
that dog
before
as
I
a
come
fallen?
back. I don't give a fuck. He's coming back a zombie dog. That's my baby.
No, see, the fallen can't travel back, which is why Ash, I think they said in part 2, or maybe even in part 1, that Ash had to make a deal with Mistress Woe to deliver that baby early. Because I think Ash was pregnant when they was going home or something. I was like, oh, this is...
How's that gonna work going home?
Quite ghetto.
This is quite ghetto.
Especially
also
into your...
messy that the vampire dude was originally Isabel's, and then he was just
What's
like...
messy is that, like, you're grown. That's the messiest part. You're grown, and this is weird. Because they even look younger, like, when they were doing the flashbacks. I was like, oh, so were y'all still kids? Like, they didn't clarify this part. I was like, oh, so is it supposed to be like y'all... Was it like a witch transformation? You've seen Witch, right?
Which one?
Like, literally, it's called Witch, and it's like all their initials. They're the Guardians of the Veil, and they do their magical girl transformation. In Witch is like all their names, so it's like an acronym. They're not witches, they're like fairies, but they're the guardians of this thing called the Veil, and they got this heart of Cantricor. Anyway, they all got elemental powers except for the one main girl, Bloom. No, that's Winx. Sorry, her name is Will. In the first episode, when they transform, they're all like freshmen in high school. But it's in like France, so they're not like in high school. They're in omelette du fromage.
There's a lot of shitting on French people going on here tonight. I think some of your UK angst is popping through.
Baby, I was who I was before I got there. So
Christian, what were your thoughts of the storyline up into part, because I haven't read part 2 yet. So part 1, thoughts.
Oh wait, let me get to my... so when they transform, they go from being like freshman girls to being like a bit older, like they're taller, their bodies are more developed. But I'm like, y'all kid anyway, because they're like 14. So I was like, is this what's happening in Die? Because those are my final thoughts, because I'm still not clear on this. Like, are you as a grown man with 2 children?
Also, does time move the same within that universe as it does on the outside? Because I know 2 years passed before they came back, but was it 2 years while they were on the inside too?
No, I don't believe 2 years passed, because Ash's son was a grown man. I believe it's been the same amount of time. But the only person other than Ash's son, the grown man, who could indicate time would be Lord Zamorna. But Lord Zamorna is a vampire.
Messy.
There's nobody else that they meet in part 1 who they had met before. Well, except for that one lady who was like the Elven Queen, who was just some girl Saul thought was hot 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. My final thoughts, this is a very messy story. You know, I love mess. That's why you read comic books, because the mess, like...
Good action, too. I think it had a good balance between, like, all of the relationships intertwining, the overlap, but also some really cool combat and a really interesting take on D&D classes and seeing them in action and how they all work together and, like, the unique parts of each person.
No, I get that. This reminds me of a book that I read. It's called So This Is Ever After by F.T. Lukens, and it's basically like everything that would happen after a Dungeons and Dragons campaign if you got there. Like, it would be like that book is like the epilogue, and this comic, it reads out exactly like a long campaign. But the thing is, the kind of player I am, I prefer, like, being a dungeon master, I have people who like to do combat, and I don't. I only care about combat if it's like narratively appropriate, and I operate entirely based on vibes. I look at the stat block, and then I use my internal discernment to decide when dropping this villain would be narratively appropriate. You've played with me before, like,
I have.
Did it not seem like that's what I did?
See, I kind of preferred that, though. I feel like too much combat with not enough storyline, it just turns it into a beat 'em up, and it's less interesting. You have to have the story to make the combat make sense, otherwise it feels like work.
Yeah, and as a player, I prefer story to beat 'em up. But also, as a player, I'm really freaking good at beat 'em up. Well, who knows? I don't know. I'll never play a martial class. I say I'll never play a martial class, but I was literally, like, right before we recorded, I was reading Alana all of my... I'm for every basic class, I had made a character. I haven't rolled them up yet, but I was like, this is their concept. Oh my gosh, she's a barbarian and a sea elf, because, you know, pretty girls.
I think you might enjoy being a ranger because of that, because you have such an affinity.
Too much math.
It's really not. But once you know your character and know what you're capable of, because you have the best of both worlds with it, you can do a lot of magic. Well, depending upon which class you choose, but
Well, if I was gonna play a martial class, so that's my disconnect. People keep telling me I could still do magic, and if I'm playing a martial class, no, it's strictly beat 'em up. There's no arcane trickery going on.
ooh, but the arcane trickery can make your beat 'em up go much further,
No,
or even for use beyond that. Because I don't really always use my magic in combat, but there are spells for other useful things, like helping you get through a lot of puzzles that the DM sets.
I don't need spells for puzzles. I got this big, beautiful brain that breaks headphones in 2 separate places.
Hey, you do you, boo boo. I'm gonna keep going with my swarm. Thank you much.
Plus, I don't think you could handle it if I tried to DM you a puzzle, because you remember when I was trying to get everybody's opinion on that chicken riddle, and
That
you
shit
guys were
pissed me off.
you guys were literally all screaming at me, and I'm like, it's such a simple. I learned this riddle when I was in like daycare.
You went to like a Montessori type daycare. You went to a very advanced daycare,
It
okay?
very much did not. Oh, I mean, yeah, it was accredited as a school, but and like that is why I'm so much more advanced than all of you. I don't even mean that in a rude way. Me and Alana are the same age, and in fact, she's like a month older, but I was a grade ahead of Alana, and I was supposed to go into the next grade, but I have really bad social skills. Yeah, so I learned how to read when I was like 2 or 3 at the same daycare. Shout out to Granny. Hey, Granny. Yeah, so it was, actually it was like a Montessori type school, but it was $80 a week. You know, most people paid out their ass for daycare. Like I was 3 meals a day, watched movies, we had playtime, and we learned.
I need one of those now.
I know, right? Maybe I should open a daycare. Oh wait, no, I really hate kids.
Children.
They really like me though, so that could be like a match made in heaven.
That is one perspective. Yeah.
Maybe
Yes,
this is my true calling. They're people like, it's like, oh, Lana had a baby. If you were anybody else, I might have just dropped you or slowly phased you out. But you are in fact my best friend. So
this is like the most simultaneously offensive and endearing conversation.
that's a joke. I don't start phasing my friends out when they have kids. They usually start phasing me out because I'm very immature.
Say you're immature.
No, I'm really immature. I literally just shouted the P word at you not even 20 minutes ago.
P word?
Yeah, you know.
There it is. I just wanted to make you say it.
One thing I'm not gonna do to myself is get myself canceled.
You're gonna have to edit out how you hate dogs, otherwise you're gonna have all of the dog lovers in the comments.
Fuck them dogs and fuck y'all too.
Even though you baby out over Winston every time you're around him.
He's so cute. Wait, Winston couldn't come. He couldn't roll up a character.
That's also true.
We didn't even consider that before I moved right into. You said maybe I'd bring Winston. I was like, I'd ice that dog.
You were like, I just want to shoot him, okay? We're gonna old yeller this.
Not old yeller. Wait, tell me what I was thinking about. I wasn't even thinking of a dog. I was thinking about their eyes were watching God. Me and Winston, we had us a love. Are you crying? There's no crying in baseball. I don't know. So my final thoughts are, this is a very messy story. When he said gotcha Mungie, he was right. You can tell that Kieron Gillen really is like a big nerd, really likes RPGs, really likes really is interested in the story of why Dungeons and Dragons were made, Dungeons and Dragons and other things. Like you can see a lot of war and like the circumstances of Tolkien's life in Lord of the Rings, even though I hate Lord of the Rings and think it's bad. Like, and you can see a lot of what the Brontes were going through in their work. So I'm really interested in like seeing how that carries forward into the story of Die, because we only like, even though I've read the whole thing before, I only read the first 10 issues so that I could be with you here today. And I would always choose to be with you in any universe. I want you to cry. I'm giving you everything everywhere all at once.
I am excited too. I really appreciate the attention to detail that was put into the crafting of this plot. You can tell there's a lot of love for D&D and for fantasy in general, which I think sometimes you don't often find plots that have this many layers to it and so many Easter eggs and such respect paid to, like, you may not like Lord of the Rings, but it did
I recognize it's influential. Yeah, Lord of the Rings I hate and I think it's bad, but like this is like Star Wars to me. Star Wars is influential, and you can see so much like love and like craft for like cinema in Star Wars, but like I think Star Wars is bad. I just love it.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Lord of the Rings. I recognize that it is very dry to read, and there are some problematic themes. However, it gave birth to the fantasy genre in a lot of ways.
It did not.
It didn't?
I would not say that. I would not say that fantasy is born from any Western concept.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I mean, like D&D and...
Oh, no, yeah, that's true.
Because that was my first taste of seeing like high fantasy in cinema, and yeah, I just appreciated all of the attention to detail and like the origin as well, beyond just like the simple like orcs and elves, and there was a more interesting take. There was more
And the
depth to it.
racism.
Yeah.
No, I don't care about that. I feel like if people are racist, that's really their problem. Oh, maybe that sounds like a controversial opinion to have, but to say like I don't care about
We're gonna have to
racism.
cut this out.
No, no, I don't mind not cutting that part. It's not that I don't care about racism. It's just that I don't feel like I should let other people's prejudices impact the way that I live my life. Like I'm not gonna sit and cry because you're racist. What does that have to do with me? It like if you're racist, that's a problem that you have.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with me.
It's a shitty, not your perspective, but a racist perspective is a shitty perspective to have.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Lord of the Rings is kind of entertaining, but I don't understand it, and not in like I don't get it because I understand it quite well. I've read all the books. I've watched the movies. I watched the little cartoon. That's bad too. I don't understand why other people like it. I don't get it.
Cartoon as a kid.
It's very ugly.
You're talking about the Hobbit cartoon, right?
Yeah, I think I watched it with you.
Probably, yeah, because I had it from Blockbuster as a kid.
Yeah, and I was like, and we used to be Blockbuster fiends, bro. I watched it and I was like, why would anybody like this? You know who I found out is a really big Lord of the Rings fan? Like the movies? My mom. She was going to go see those long, horrible movies at the midnight premiere.
I love her so.
She watched the first one on a whim and then was like, the second one, I must go. She was mad that I didn't like it. And I was like, it's a 4 billion hour movie with no black people. Like, even, you know what my introduction to fantasy in film was, actually?
What?
It was Dungeons and Dragons. I believe
never
the movie
saw it.
Oh, those movies are god-awful. The reason why I'm so passionate and so determined to go see Honor Among Thieves at the end of this month and why I devoted like the lead up to it is because, and I'm not sure which one Marlon Wayans is in, but it's like this is my background in fantasy. There's a show called Crodman and the Flaming Sword of Fire. It was on Comedy Central. And then there's this movie by Vin Diesel, my favorite actor, The Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah, I know the Chronicles of Riddick.
I made you watch the Chronicles of Riddick Inside and Out, but not Smallville, because Smallville occupied so much more of my time than the Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah, but there's like a million episodes of Smallville, and the Chronicles of Riddick is one movie.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't even made Alana watch Deep Space Nine successfully.
Yeah.
Once she figured out that first episode was a two-parter, I lost her. She was like, Star Trek, that's for another day.
Listen, that is quite an undertaking, okay?
Listen, all you had to do was watch
a lot of content.
All you had to do was watch 1 hour and fall in love. I've never even finished Deep Space Nine. You know, I have that thing where if I really like something, it never has to end.
I was like 10 years late to the Game of Thrones party. I didn't watch Star Wars until, I was like 2020 for me. See, the thing is with me is when things are super, super hyped, then I feel like
I forget that you're not like other girls.
I don't know if it's that. I think it's more so when there's too much pressure on me to do something.
I'm like, unique.
There's too much pressure.
Who is pressuring you? Who is pressuring you?
Society. Everybody that's constantly
be a leader. Stop being a follower.
That's why I didn't watch it until I fucking wanted to. And then I liked it on my terms.
Well, you know, actually, I think most of the movies, like, they're very unserious. I think only one Star Wars movie was ever meant to be an actual good movie, and that's Rogue One.
I never saw that. I have still not seen any of the new ones. I tried, and I just couldn't get into it. Probably because I guess I'm not like they're going.
Yeah, because you're terminally unique. Yeah. I only watched Star Wars in the first place because I really like John Boyega, and I was like, oh, he's gonna be in Star Wars, so I need to watch Star Wars now so I can know. And my mom got all the DVDs from a coworker of hers. Shout out to I think Mr. Martinez. Yeah. But those nerds pitched those movies to me so badly because I was so uninterested. I was like, oh, I don't care about anything happening there. Hayden Christensen is in those movies, and I love him. So I was like, he was in these movies the whole time. They were like, Ewan McGregor is Obi-Wan, and I barely know who Ewan McGregor is. Like, I've seen a lot of his movies, but he makes movies I don't care about. I don't mean that in a rude way at all. He's in a movie that I actually like called The Island. The movie actually kind of freaked me out, but I really like The Island. And it's like whenever people would pitch Star Wars to me, they'd be like, Ewan McGregor, and then they'd be like, Sam Jackson. Sam Jackson's in a lot of movies, okay?
Yeah.
It was so unserious. They only had plans to make one movie. That one movie ended. It was a big hit. They were like, well, let's make a 2. 2 was a big hit. So they were like, well, now we have to connect it to 3. And it was all very unserious. I see how they ended up with the Muppets.
Come again.
Yeah, you never seen that Star Wars special with the puppets? Oh, even though you guys also don't know this, but even though I notoriously hate puppets, I'm obsessed with the Muppets, in particular Frank Oz. Yeah, how are you surprised at this? Frank Oz is Yoda.
I did not know that. My favorite Muppets movie is Muppets Treasure Island, though. I love that one.
Mine is Muppets Take Manhattan.
I have never seen that one.
It would be crazy if that wasn't a real movie and that was just like an elaborate dream that I had. I don't know. What's your favorite Sesame Street movie?
I don't remember.
Wow, because I have an answer. Mine is Elmo in Grouchland or whatever it's called. I love that.
The fact that you still remember that is impressive.
Girl, I watched it like 2 years ago.
Of course you did.
Yeah, I don't believe in putting things away just because they're childish. So I still, anytime Spy Kids is on, I'm watching it. But that's just because I love Danny Trejo. Uncle Machete, that's my man.
Is cinema masterpiece. So
it's iconic. It's legendary. It's cinema. It's true love. It's good versus evil. It's everything.
There's a shitpost page that I follow on Facebook that is Junie Cortez, our Lord and Savior, and it's just absolute deep fried memes with Junie.
Wait, do you remember when Daryl Sabera started dating Meghan Trainor and people were taking pictures of him outside that sex shop and they were like, Meghan Trainor's dating Junie from Spy Kids and they have really hot sex.
Jesus Christ, no, I don't remember that.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard. But I feel like after that, this is a natural place to wrap up. So that's all for this week's episode of True Believers. I want to thank you all for all of your support. And if everything goes according to plan, Alana and I will be back next week to discuss the last half of Die. True Believers is available on all major streaming platforms, and we are a member of the Hall of Pods Podcasting Alliance that can be found in the link tree below, along with links to our various social media accounts. And as always, if you want to leave a suggestion on what we read or watch, you can find and DM us, email us at #1truebelievers@gmail.com or join our Discord.
I have a question for the audience, though, and if there is a comment section, I'm not sure because I don't make this stuff, but if there is, I would like to know, what class do you think Christian would be? Which one do you think I would be? Let us know.
Wait, D&D or Die?
Both.
All right, yeah. What class do you think we are? Yep. Hit those comments.
Is there even a comment section?
Hell no. I'm actually going to start reading the comments. As long as I don't have to delete anymore, because if you leave any more furry propaganda in my comments, I will continue to block you.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
You brought this on us!
You brought this on us by being a furry!
I'm not. You know what? The harder that I resist this, the harder you hit me with it. And we are already at like 2 hours. However, one day I'm going to lean into it just to spite you.
You already have.
Oh, baby, not hard enough yet.
Yeah.
I'm going to get an entire fur suit.
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to get hard.
You're the one getting hard.
You're going to get hard. I think you're projecting on me because you want me to assume a furry persona to satisfy your inner needs, your deep, deep taboo shame. No shade to you furries, that's your business, but that's not my prerogative.
First of all, I hope you choked on those lies. Second of all, the fact that you invented a whole scenario in which...
Why do you want me to be a furry so bad?
Maybe it's not that I want you to be a furry. Maybe that I'm trying to accept you for who you really are. And your entire scenario in which I want you to be a furry really just proves what I've been saying for years. You are deeply and irrevocably in love with me. And you want me to accept you for who you really are. Yeah.
Well, the game is mine because you know what? You do love me.
I guess you can't unring that bell.
That's all.
The Dice Cast. See you next week. I would love to say a really great sign off right now, but I don't have one. So
hit that like and subscribe, guys.
Okay, that's perfect.